to the Notary Ninja Show. Episode 27 is going to be about apostilles, being an apostille agent, offering apostille services to your notary business. And this is our apostille masterclass podcast. I say that uh, facetiously because I think that apostille masterclasses are a little bit of malarkey. And we're going to talk about some of that today. So, this is cool. See, we are just coming in back from spring break vacation. My kids are still out for spring break, which is why there's only going to be one episode this week. Usually we do 2 to 3 Notary Ninja podcasts, and this week we are only doing probably this one. Maybe I'll get one in this weekend, but because I've been gone on vacation and a little mini vacation with the kids. And during that time, though, we were actually did an apostille video on YouTube and kind of about the process and just showing the simplification of it. Really, what happened was we had before we left for our trip, we had an apostille client. Normally, what we would do under these circumstances is we have a courier, and I'm going to break this down here in a minute. I'm going to go into the apostille process, what it is and what we do and how it's done. But normally we would do the paperwork, send it to a courier who would walk that into the Secretary of State in Tallahassee. But we were traveling through there as part of our little spring break tour of a bunch of different springs that we were going to. One that we were going to be going to and staying at was Wakula Springs, which is just outside of Tallahassee. And they have a lodge there that you can stay at, and it's cool. They have high dives there, and it's pretty cool. So we were doing that. So we thought, hey, why don't we just deliver this apostille ourselves to the Secretary of State and record the whole process and show what it's about? Hence that video, and hence the Notary Ninja podcast on apostilles. So, what in the heck is an apostille? So, an apostille is um, it's a document that is authenticated or more or less certified in the same way that a notary would notarize a document, but it is done to the effect that it is recognized by these 121 countries that are part of what's known as a Hague Treaty. Um, so basically, how this looks in the real world is that there's going to be an individual who is going to be uh, going or transacting in another country. In this particular case, with this apostille, it was Italy, but it can be anywhere. So it's in one of these treaty countries. Now, if it's a non-treaty country, it's a different process. Has to go through I believe, has to go through the U.S. Department of State. But so anyway, so with the Hague Treaty, this okay. So this, let me just tell you what this client was doing. So they're selling real estate in Italy that was like an inheritance property. And in order to do that, they have to have a power of attorney that allows another relative in that country to act on their behalf. And in order for that country, in this particular instance, Italy, to recognize that power of attorney or even a notarized power of attorney, it has to be apostillized by our Secretary of State. So that is, in essence, this is the skinny on it. This is essentially what it is. And so the process as an apostille agent, quote unquote, you are facilitating this transaction for them. So what is neat about facilitating this transaction, and usually it's notaries or notary services or adjacent type services. If you got a tax service, legal document preparation service, anything like that, you could add this service to your business. It would be an easy add-on. What's neat about apostilles is, one, the competition is extremely low. There aren't a lot of people that are offering this service, um, but there's a lot of people looking to have apostilles done. And they're somewhat confusing. There's somewhat a mystery, not only to probably you listening, but to definitely to people who need to have them done. So they do what any logical person would do, and they Google apostilles or apostille help or apostille service, apostille agent, whatever they Google to find somebody near them who can help them out with this particular problem they have. Um, and that's where the opportunity lies. So the apostilles facilitating this transaction is pretty much completely unregulated. It's like open sesame. It's kind of like right there in that credit repair, legal document repair. I love to hover in this zone where there's just kind of like no one's really watching what's going on. Fingerprinting is going to same thing. You can just anybody can do this stuff, um, which makes it great. Uh, so all you have to do is understand the nature of these transactions, where to go to get the information, how to make this transaction go through, and we're going to talk about that, of course. And you can then offer apostille services. So before I go into all the apostille, what to charge and how much, let's talk about the cheddar. Let's talk about what's involved. Okay. Now, as I said, it's pretty much unregulated, which means you can charge whatever you want. Now, I always say charge whatever the market will bear. That means what somebody's willing to pay you. And, but I'll tell you what I charge, in Florida. So I have two levels of apostille service. I have what I call a priority apostille service, and I have what I call express apostille service. So for a priority apostille service, I charge $125. I'm pretty much pocketing about 90 of that. So there's usually a $10 apostille fee if it's going to the state of Florida. Now, if it's going to another state, it's going to be more, and I'm just going to pass that on to the consumer because I'm not going to walk away with less than 90 or $100 for this transaction. And now this transaction, I should mention, only takes me a couple of minutes, maybe 15 minutes. You're just taking some basic information from them, notarizing a document if it needs to be notarized, and then you're just getting the air bill. That's pretty much it. But since they have no idea how all this works, they're paying you because you are the one-stop shop, and you're near them. So what happens is they bring me this document, and these documents can be best death certificates, birth certificates, marriage certificates, divorce decrees, power of attorneys, copy certifications, any authorization level, letter, diplomas. A lot of what I see are articles of incorporation and corporate powers of attorney. I do a lot of those. I actually have one single client who owns a business called NavPass, and I wrote about him in the book Digital Pen. I was writing about this. My repeat apostille customer. He's my repeat apostille customer. And so NavPass, they're globetrotters. They're all over the world, and the president of the company is constantly appointing these powers of attorneys for other business partners, basically. And since he's in Florida and his document originates in Florida, I notarize his documents online, and then I send the apostilles in, and then I'll send it to wherever he needs the apostille done. And so he's a repeat customer. Those are great to have, especially with these high ticket things like this. But so there's an example again of just the common different documents you'll see. Now, documents that are already like they're what we would call non-reproducible, like a birth certificate or death certificate, a marriage certificate. And it comes from the county, or the vital statistics. Those do not need to be notarized. They're just sent in and then to the state that they originated in, and they come back. Yeah, this is the real deal for another country. Now, if it's a paperwork like a power of attorney, um, a consent, those kinds of things, those in order for them to be worthy, we'll say, of an apostille, they need to be notarized first, and they need to be notarized up to the state standard, um, and then sent to the Secretary of State, and then sent back to the client so they can use them. So, while this isn't really that hard, the confusion comes in a couple of places. One is whether or not you're sending it to the right Secretary of State, again, based on document origination. And the process. So most of the states that do apostilles, they have an intake form. And the intake form has to be filled out. The document, if requiring notarization, needs proper notarization. And then it goes in and comes back. Now, that's one part of the scenario. Usually, what they're paying you for, and I didn't finish this thought. I kind of went off on another tangent, but I said we charge 125 for a priority apostille, and I said we have two levels. So let me just address this. So the second level of service we offer is express service. So that's where we can get you the apostille done in 4 or 5 days, and that is usually what they're paying you for because usually they want their apostille done ASAP. So what I am doing is doing whatever, if it needs notary or whatever, the intake form stuff, and then I am doing an express mailer, and I'm sending this to a courier in Tallahassee that I used over and over and over and over again. Made them a lot of money and me a lot of money. I send them the document. They walk the document into the Division of Corporations, aka the Secretary of State, the Apostille Division. And this is what we did in our YouTube videos. We just walked it in ourselves to show how it was like a just wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, you're going. Um, so we did the apostille, and then of course we were coming back home, and we told our client, "Look, we'll be back in couple of days we'll have it." So we kind of self-express it. Now, realistically, I'm in Port Orange, and that's Tallahassee, and that's 4 hours away. And realistically, I would never drive to Tallahassee for an apostille ever, other than it was part of my vacation plans, which was extremely convenient. Otherwise, I would have just um, passed along the fee that is my courier's fee. So that's how I'm able to expedite a apostille. Is I send it to a courier overnight. The courier walks it in, picks it up, overnights it back to me or to my client, and I charge them $250 for that service. Most of the profit from, or most of the additional charge from that, I'm actually passing along to my courier. I've expressed their express back, so that's $60 in fees, and then I'm paying my courier $60, so $120 out of that increase is just going right to them to make the transaction speedy. But that's what they're paying you extra for, and they will. Um, so those are the levels of apostille. So, and I hope I've given you a grasp of kind of what this is. It's basically just some form of legal document that's got to go to another country, and there's different rules involved. For example, each state has a nuance. A way they may want things done. Um, and I've discovered that, and you just kind of discover that as you go, as you do different documents for different states, you just kind of figure some of this out. And if they are documents that, like I said, if they're not hang treaty, then they got to go through U.S. Department of State. If they are federal documents, like an FBI background check, which is not uncommon, then they also have to go through the U.S. Department of State. Now, here's the drag: is the U.S. Department of State is like an 8 week turnaround. Nothing you can do to speed that up. With your local Secretary of State, it really depends on them. I know ours in Florida is like a 3 week turnaround. And there's where my priority services, I'm upfront with them and say, hey, look, it's about a 3 week process. Turn this around. And if they're good with that, they just pay that fee. But if they need it ASAP, then they need a courier who just shows up there to get it done. So that's the only way to speed that process up. And that opportunity is available for most states at the state level. But unfortunately, at the U.S. Department of State level, there's really nothing you can do. It's just 8 weeks. And essentially, I still charge the same fee. But essentially, I'm just guaranteeing them, look, one, I'm handling it for you. Two, the intake form and the work required, the steps required are going to be done right so that you can get this done. So that is essentially the service. Now, there are courses out there that teach these apostille master classes. I kind of chuckle when I hear about them because I don't think a master class is needed to get up and running. And I should mention in our course that we have, our flagship course, the Notary Prosperity Academy, we do have a lesson that is dedicated to apostilles. That kind of goes through this. There's some video, there's some didactic. It gives you a more detailed breakdown of the process and what to expect and what to do. Some of the intake forms from some of the bigger states, some of the nuances from states. But I this is just a lesson in it in the course. And again, I'm just teaching you what you need to know to get up and running, because you can kind of figure the rest of it out as you go. But there are all these apostille courses available. I even get spammed, with people trying to sell me on their apostille course. And so here's the thing is, like, I'm looking at one right now. It's apostilletraining.com, and the apostille training course is $298. Holy smokes, that is a lot to learn just apostilles. Now, if you want the training course plus Super Genesis, it's 397. Uh, I'm curious as to what Super Genesis is. It's not going to tell me. It's just taking me right to the checkout page. Just put it on your card. But the warning signs here under this apostilletraining.com is the certified apostille agent. They're going to make you a certified apostille agent. And there is pretty much no such thing. So they've imagined a certification, and they're going to sell you for the low price of $400 this imaginary certificate along with their training. So that stuff is I have a problem with that. I mean, this is nonsense. So is there $400 of information in their course? I don't know. Maybe, probably. Who knows? I don't know. uh, can you make a lot of extra money doing apostilles? Yes, absolutely. Will they give you the know-how to be able to conduct these? Sure, most likely. Do you need that much? Do you need a master class? Do you need weeks and weeks of study to do this? Absolutely not. You just need to understand the basics, and then get yourself out there, get some clients. And I have said before, and I'll say it again, it's client acquisition. The web exposure and the marketing part of this is way more important than the know-how, because you can learn as you go, and it's okay to goof up a little bit. But just having all the knowledge and no revenue source, no exposure does not do you any good. And pretty much most of these trainings are just talking about the technical aspects of this stuff, and they're not giving you the practical application, meaning the real world. I got to have people knowing about my service kind of thing. So let's look at another one here. Now, this next one I'm looking at, Mastering Apostilles, this comes from the Lawrence Institute of Notaries. Now, Judy Lawrence, in all fairness, yeah, I think her training is pretty good. She definitely is one of the foremost people at the forefront of notary education when it comes to apostilles and apostille training. But uh, you know, again, here on her online course and certification, okay, Julie's going to give you a certification too, which you've just heard my reasons why that's malarkey. $499 just to learn her apostilles, just to take the apostille course, which again, I truly believe that you just need to have a good basic understanding of the process and the nuances, and then from there, the more important thing would be, how do I get this ship to sail? How do I get people, kicking my door down for apostilles? Because that's where the money is. The money is not in being a certified. I promise you, if you were operating in Port Orange, Florida, and you are a certified apostille agent, and I do nothing more than say that I have apostille services, I'm going to smoke you left and right, because I know how to market this thing. I know how this game works. So there is that. Um, let's move on. What else can I tell you about apostilles? You don't need to be certified. You can charge what the market will bear. It's basically handling legal documents. A good place for resources on this is your Secretary of State. Is your state's apostille division, and also the U.S. Department of State, as well as the going to the Hague Treaty's actual site, and familiarizing yourself with who's a Hague Treaty country and who's not. If I'm even saying that word right, I don't know. I always just look and double check. If they got an apostille, let's go into the first. My first question is, what country is it going to? And then what kind of document? Now, some states, uh, including the U.S. Department of State, are going to require documents that are in a foreign language to be translated before they'll apostilize them. In Florida, that is not the case. I don't think they really care in Florida. They'll apostilize a foreign document. Um, so there is apostilles again, a great supplement. This idea, this service is a great supplement to any legal service type business to add. It is at this point, it's unsaturated. It is high markup, easy again, easy service to offer, a little bit of know-how, quick and easy to learn, great revenue potential. You can add. I think we probably do three, four, five apostilles a week. With pocketing $100 for a couple minutes a week of each, a couple minutes for each of them. That's great extra money. And when you come up with a couple different ideas like this, like a couple weeks ago, we talked about the labor deeds and some of the other things with a high markup. You have a few different things like this. It's real easy. I think you can start painting a picture of, okay, I can see how you got 500 here a week, 500 there a week, and 500 there a week. Okay, I see how this guy can pull in 3, 4, 5 grand a week with these simple things and still have all this free time. That's exactly how I do it. That's exactly how it works. Is finding these opportunities that exist that have a high markup. They have a low time investment for learning and a low time investment for application with your client, but the perceived value of them is very high. And you go out and you do some of these, and then boom, today we had, I think, Grace ran a seller's appointment, and we had a couple in-house, some legal documents we did, and a fingerprint we rolled this morning, and then we had I had some stuff that I mailed, so I did some mailing stuff. So, but anyway, at the end of the day, just in that kind of notary legal service, we cleared over $600. But then if you tacked on the additional monies that was owed for the drop shipping hub that I offer, is even more. But again, didn't have to do much. It wasn't like I worked hard, didn't get up early, didn't stress myself out, and we brought some decent money in. These opportunities exist. They're probably not going anywhere anytime soon. So that is it for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the Notary Ninja Show, and we will see you next time.